Bitcoin defying all odds, the USDC depegging event, and crypto is becoming unbanked. This is Around the Blockchain. Thank you for joining. Please smash that like button. We're going to get right into the guests we have today. On the top left, welcome back. It is Ben Armstrong. Ben, how's it going? You're winding down the book tour, finally getting a chance to breathe, and then the crypto blows up.
I mean, it needs me. It needs me in the studio. That's what it is. Bitcoin can't go up when I'm on the road. So,
all right, and you don't mean like
I'll be out next week. Expect it short.
Okay, you don't mean a musical studio, do you? You got to drop some bars. Is Cassius here? Got you inspired? No,
maybe a little bit. We'll see.
Maybe a little. All right, and then we have crypto Wendy O. Wendy, welcome back. It's been a while. I heard a rumor you might be having a new podcast soon.
Potentially, exponentially, we don't know.
All right, I'm going to be keeping tuned to that one. Make sure you follow all her socials and keep those notifications on. Then we also have the most famous Utes in the world. Of course, I'm talking about Forrest 0x Stacker. Forrest, how's it going?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
Always a good time. And then don't judge him by the pillows he has in his background. He's just thinking crypto. How's it going today?
Great, man. It's good to see Bitcoin's price pumping despite all the craziness happening. So I'm glad to be here.
All right, well, let's talk about Bitcoin's price pumping. Obviously, we saw, a lot of tumultuous events over the weekend. We're going to get into that over the show. And then just over the past, say, 24, 36 hours, Bitcoin has just been on a tear, bouncing hard off of 20,000 and now currently coming in at $24,266. Now, Wendy, I thought crypto was over. The banking sector is shutting us down. Gary's out there, Powell's out there. I was supposed to sell all my Bitcoin, but then everything decided to pump. At one point, I saw about a 20% pump on Bitcoin. What is going on? Did the Fibonacci levels tell me this was going to happen? Why did it just go up out of nowhere?
Well, there was two scenarios we needed to talk about. One was the bullish case, and then second case was a super bearish case. I still do think that Bitcoin does have the potential for quite a bit of downside. However, I do think because FDIC said that they were going to come in and save the day for these collapsed banks, Bitcoin did decide to pump. People are seeing this as a positive sign, as a bullish sign. But in reality, we still have to flip above $25,000, reclaim that resistance area, flip it into support. It has been a historic area for us since Thursday, February 16th to about Tuesday, 21st of February, weren't able to flip above that $25,000 area of resistance. And then all the way back on Monday, 15th of August, 2022, we weren't able to break above that. So once we flip 25,000, we can send it. But at the same time, I am very, 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 very cautious because we just need one negative announcement from this current administration or any other public servant to make things go down.
All right. Well, you said negative announcement there. Now, Forrest, I saw a, negative target as well, and that was that CME Gap. Everyone's saying, look, Bitcoin is going to have to come down to this $19,000 or so level, clear the CME Gap, and then it was off to the races. But did that just play out perfectly? Is that unrelated? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there's always some TA intertwined in everything that happens. I mean, ultimately, we got this big crash. It found some support where you'd expect it to, near its previous all-time high in the previous market cycle at around 19.7K, had a 21-week simple moving average there. And then once the Fed came in and said that they were gonna, or the FDIC created this, backstop to come in and do a little bailout for the depositors of the bank, not the shareholders of the bank, but the depositors. That starts kind of this, flip long, right? People cover their shorts, so you get the shorts start getting squeezed back upwards. Then CZ comes in last night and decides to just announce that he's dropping $1 billion into, I believe, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and BNB. So that's some buy pressure there. And then you've got a lot of people covering their shorts, right? When USDC depegged, people were creating a synthetic stablecoin by being long spot Bitcoin and then shorting the perp and 1x leverage that creates like this old school Bitcoin stablecoin, the delta neutral position. To get out of USDC and out of USDT and stable coins. But a lot of those shorts are starting to unwind, right? As people are seeing that USDC has repegged. So all of those factors combined, we see a nice little pump for Bitcoin.
All right. Well, thinking crypto, I see you nodding your head at CZ and some of this other news. What do you think is the biggest factor moving crypto right now? Is it a flight from what was supposed to be safe assets like stable coins. You look at the next best thing. Is it Bitcoin? Is it, potentially we have the banks, FDIC kind of stepping up. Is it CZ's tweets? What do you think is the number one reason we're seeing such a gigapump today?
I think it's a combination of multiple factors. QE is back, baby. And anytime there's QE and the Fed stepping in, getting the currency going again, the money printer going again, you're going to see a move to assets, and the markets start to anticipate and price in potential actions that may be coming months from now, right? I think folks are looking at the Fed may have to stop rate hikes. They're going to have to cut rates. I'm not saying that's going to happen overnight, but we're starting to see they're going to have to start the money printer back again, and the bailouts that they're giving these banks, in addition to the items that were mentioned by Forrest and Wendy, and that is CZ, and then the folks moving from USDC into Bitcoin. I think it's a combination of factors. And once again, I think the biggest one is just the perspective and narrative changing around the Fed.
All right. Well, Ben, do you actually agree with that narrative? Is the belt tightening phase over? Did this last events of the 72 hours said, hey, you know what? Maybe they're going to slow down with the rate raises. And now is it, just more green candles incoming?
Well, I think you have to tighten your belt. It's obvious why. It's because you have hunger pains.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wear sweatpants.
Cannot piss on hospitality.
Sweatpants is over my head.
Cannot piss on hospitality. That's for anyone that wants to know. That's a Troll 2 reference. Both of those are. Thank you. Look, you can't talk about tightening the belt without a Troll 2 reference. Here's the thing. I don't think it's up only from here, but I do think here's what happens. When you have the price touch certain levels of support and tests those levels, and proves those levels to be strong support and bounce back up, that means the next time, if it goes back down to that level again, it's going to be way harder to break, like even harder to break through it. And I think what we're seeing is we've, ticked up from $15,000 all the way to, back to 25.2 is what we've been up to. I think what you'll find is there's levels in between here and there that have just been strengthened. And around that 19,005, like that is a strong level. People thinking like, oh man, I might be able to get Bitcoin for under 20K again. They're salivating, but you know what happens? It goes right back up. It goes under 20K and then bounces right back up. That's what we've seen. And so, for me, I think that we're going to see a big bull trap here, another bull trap. We're going to go up probably by the summer, $40,000, $35,000, $30,000, somewhere between 30 and 40K. And then we're going to get retracement, and then we'll start slowly building up as we head towards the halving. So I do think the Fed printing money is good news. Now, do we know for sure where they've said they've printed money other than just like implying, I guess, but people are implying that since they're going to bail out the bank, they're going to give the bank money, they were printing that money. But has that been officially declared yet? Does anybody know?
As far as I know, no, there's still a lot of uncertainty about where the origination of these funds are going to come from.
Right. So once that's confirmed, that'll be really good news for the market. I mean, we'll see the price of Bitcoin go up considerably. But in the meantime, we can't like live on that idea of hope. So, ultimately, I do think that there's going to be so choppy water. It's going to be up and down. But overall, I think we bottomed in the market. I think we did in November. And, that's bullish for where things are going in the midterm here.
All right, Ben, quick follow-up. Now, there's all these fears. Crypto is now being unbanked. This is coming down from the top. Do you think that the end goal is of these two decisions? Is it to totally eliminate fiat off-ramps and on-ramps for crypto in the U.S., or is it to maybe just give those on-ramps to their 5 to 7 best friends? I mean, biggest banks.
F the on-ramps and the off-ramps. Let's unplug from the system. That's what I have to say. That's fine. They want to take away our on and off-ramps? We got something for that. So I think that I certainly don't think that Janet Yellen believed that by, or Elizabeth Warren did, that by going after the Silvergate Bank and that was going to move into Silicon Valley Bank. I don't think they thought that I don't think they thought this would blow up in their face like they did. I think they tried to go after crypto in the beginning, and now the Silicon Valley Bank going under has started, a lot more banks going down, and huge amounts of losses on the stock market today in the banking industry. I think it was bigger than they thought they could ever control, and so they're trying to just convince us not to use it, but they can't stop us from using it.
All right, Wendy, what are your thoughts? Are they trying to eliminate the ramps completely, or just direct us into the 5 to 6, 7 largest banks?
I think that they just want to push through the CBDC. And I think the best way to do that is to institute fear in the American people, blaming this American banking failure on cryptocurrency and Bitcoin companies instead of actually taking responsibility for their actions. I think it's just a fear mongering tactic. And I do think, in fact, it's going to be the American taxpayers, the underdogs, are going to be paying for this bailout. The amount of cash that that FDIC has to actually back deposits, I think it's only like 1.26%, which is kind of bizarre considering all of the crypto crackdown that we saw, them saying, well, you need to have proof of reserves, you need to hold assets backed one to one, when the United States of American banks don't even do that themselves. So I think it's all a play to institute a CBDC, and this is the best way to do it because they know people are tired, they know people are going to ask questions, but instead of people asking questions, if they hear that it's crypto, if it's Bitcoin, then it's bad. And that's exactly what the narrative, in my personal opinion.
All right, Forrest, what do you think of that narrative? Is this all a strategy to force CBDCs in through the back door?
Potentially. I think ultimately they're just playing the game of trying to slow crypto down. I think they're very, very far behind. Now, one thing that Wendy said, look, Joe Biden came on this morning and he promised, guys, that the American taxpayer would not foot the bill for these bailouts. So I just want to throw that out there. He did promise. He said the word promise, I believe. So that's a very important point there. I don't want it to be lost on anybody. But look, I think ultimately there's going to be more banks that step in to be on ramps into crypto, unless they just completely regulate them out of the business and point it towards some of the larger banks. Look, Silicon Valley Bank was willing to step out in front of a steamroller to pick up some pennies, 0.4%. Is what they picked up by taking on this huge risk that ultimately led to their demise, right? So there's going to be other banks out there in this type of environment that are willing to take on the perceived risk of servicing the crypto industry if they can financially benefit from it. So I think this is just a slowdown.
Yeah, you said they took on this huge risk for less than 1%. Paradoxically, that was the whole reason. There was no risk involved with this strategy. It was the risk-free move to do at the time. Now, thinking crypto, what do you think was the underlying strategy of this weekend's events?
Sure. I think it's layered. They are definitely, to what you said, trying to funnel this business to the bigger banks like your JP Morgans. Here's why. We didn't hear any reports of JP Morgan dropping Gemini or Coinbase. There was some rumors there, but Gemini said that's not true. Citi also supports some crypto businesses. I think these smaller regional banks were front running the larger ones, getting into the crypto industry, providing banking services and so forth. So I think it is, once again, to funnel that business back to the bigger banks. Second, to the CBDC situation, I think that is in play. A couple of weeks ago, I spoke to a former regulator. I can't give his name, but he currently supports different crypto companies. He does advisory roles, sits on boards and so forth. And he said Operation Choke Point is a real thing. It's coming from the top, from the Biden administration. Janet Yellen and all these folks are behind it, but also the Fed. They are worried about stable coins, and they are definitely trying to push the digital dollar through. What levels of privacy you would have, if it's going to go through the commercial banks or come directly from the Fed, those details are not out yet, but I think CBDCs are a part of this.
All right, I tend to agree. I think that is probably the best strategy is you force everyone to use the Fed-friendly banks, which, there is the JP Morgan, there's 5 or 6, some even say 7 large ones. All right, well, let's talk about some of the smaller players. They had a huge drawdown today. I'm just kind of looking at some of these numbers. First Republic Bank down 79% today. Western Alliance 85%. PacWest down 60%. And the list goes on and on. We had over a dozen halted today. Now, Ben, what are your thoughts of the stock market halting these stocks? We don't see it in crypto. Some would say that's a good thing. Some would say that's a bad thing. What are your viewpoints on the fact that they could just put the pause button? Is that helping people or hurting people?
Well, what people don't realize is they actually got that technology from Solana. So
Solana, 2 points.
Pause. Look, here's the thing. It's insane that they have to stop the market. Like, that is such manipulation coordination. Like, if the price of Bitcoin was falling, you think anybody's going to want to turn it off? Like, the price is falling. Let's stop so we can not get liquidated. It's like, no. You like the volatility in crypto. That's why you signed up for it, You want to go up, you want to go down at different times, depending on which, whether you're long or short. But overall, it's a free market. And unfortunately, the regular stock market is not a free market. They try to pretend that it is, but it is absolutely not. So I tell all these boomers they can just keep their stonks.
All right, keep them, and keep that Robinhood app while you're at it. We don't need it, Vlad. All right, now, Wendy, now do you think, I'm kind of thinking back of '08. I felt like it affected essentially everybody, being that it affected mortgages heavily and home prices heavily. So, there's a lot of pain being felt by average Americans. Do you think that these recent events, will it reach that level of the average American knows what's going on? Or is this always going to be slightly technical, slightly behind the scenes, and maybe slightly isolated?
I can't say for sure that the people I know in my local community have no idea what is going on. I actually just got back from the bank to open up a second business account because of the whole FDIC scare. And the teller had no idea. She asked her manager,
Mm.
she says, "Why are people withdrawing money? What's going on? I don't understand." The fact that you work for a bank and you have no idea what is actually happening is a little bit alarming. A little bit alarming. And this was the person that was helping me set up my banking account. So they weren't just a teller. And again, no shame to any of the tellers. You got to start somewhere. That's fine. It's a decent job. My issue is that nobody knows and nobody cares. The only thing that they are going to see is mainstream media headlines. And Forbes, 5 days before Silicon Valley Bank collapsed, was ranked the top 5th bank in America. Please, somebody
Mhm.
fact check me on that, but go check it out. This is all very, very real. And yes, we have a tinfoil crown on.
All right, and you brought up tellers. A quick shout out to one of the funniest jokes on The Office, Michael Scott telling people he works in finance by saying, "I'm a bank teller." All right, now Forrest.
Technically,
Hey, technically, right? It still counts as far as I'm concerned, even if you're mopping the floors at night. Now, Forrest, do you think that other banks are going to be facing similar fears? I mean, is the worst behind us? I mean, now that we've seen the FDIC, they're stepping in, they're telling these people, "Hey, look, don't worry, you are going to have money for payroll." Essentially, is that going to slow this down, and maybe we won't see many more dominoes falling? Maybe just a few.
Yeah, ultimately, that's why I believe the FDIC and Fed stepped in as early as they did before the markets and banking operations started on Monday to ensure that everybody would have their capital liquid and ready to withdraw. Ultimately, what they are and were trying to stop is further bank runs in a chain reaction where these smaller regional banks go out first and just everything basically gets put into either some of the largest banks out there, if people have trust in there, or a larger bank run occurs where people are just lining up to get cash out of their banks and put it under their mattress. So, I mean, this is originally flashbacks to 2008 is right, and this is what Bitcoin was originally born out of. Satoshi was kind of predicting a banking collapse would occur again, and this is why crypto exists. And it's unfortunate that the people that are blissfully ignorant of what's going on, don't pay attention to what's going on, are going to be the worst affected. But that is why you have to take charge of your own finance, and you gotta learn to play the game a little bit. You gotta do your own research and figure out how to make it.
All right. Well,
Ultimately.
speaking of playing the game there, thinking crypto, they keep playing a game with these interest rates. Do you think this is going to affect the upcoming interest rates whatsoever, thinking crypto? Because, there's a lot of people calling for, oh, yeah, 50 basis points. We're going to keep going. We're going to extend past 5, might even touch 6, maybe even higher. Do you see that reversing now? I mean, can they do it in the face of all this uncertainty, or maybe things calming down enough where they're going to continue as operating or as expected?
I think they have their narrative to pause rate hikes, and despite high inflation, I don't think 2% getting inflation down to 2% is possible in the short-term window they were looking at. So they may come out and say, "Hey, 4 or 5% is okay, and we need to start the money printer again to help solve the banking crisis we have." Right? You have Biden coming at 9 a.m. in the morning talking about this, and I think this contagion could spread. Now the Fed will be there to rescue these banks, but I think this thing still has legs, and we could see further collapses. But we also see the Fed and regulators are shutting banks down ahead of time before there's any like catastrophic issues. But like I said, I think they have the narrative to pause, potentially cut. But I could be wrong. But I think it's out there, right? What's happening right now? People are going to get scared, and they're not going to worry about inflation anymore.
Following those remarks, what do you think the NASDAQ and Bitcoin do? Up or down?
I think in the short term, we see a nice movement upward, but I'm still cautiously optimistic that things may roll over. But before all this situation, I've been looking at the charts, and so have many other technical analysts, potentially looking at Bitcoin's retracement, similar to what we saw in 2019 after the bear market bottom of 2018. I'm still, hoping for that, and it still looks good on the chart given the bounce we've seen recently. But once again, we're dealing with black swan events here, so we'll have to wait and see.
And like Wendy said, we got to flip that resistance into support. So this, and not only we got to knock on it, we got to knock on it a few times. So it still might be a little bit of a speed bump or two ahead of us. All right, well, let's, you talking about taking a leg down. Well, what also took a leg down was USDC, but guess what? It is back. It is back to $1, baby. We look at the chart here. It fell as low as 87 cents at one point, causing a panic across all the markets. And this came on the heels that Circle, the issuer of USDC, they revealed that, hey, we had some assets tied up in Silicon Valley Bank. They had roughly, let's just, for easy math, about 30 billion, and about 10% of that was in that bank. And then you saw roughly close to a 10% drawdown. Now, Ben, as a business owner who deals with, stable coins, I know you and Justin were talking over the weekend. He called me as well. There's a lot of panic Friday night, Saturday. It's just no one knew what was going to happen. What should be the moves that are taken in the near term? What were some of your thoughts? And I mean, did you, can you walk us through the emotions? Did you feel panic? Did you think about trading into Tether at a loss? What did you end up doing? And, what were those emotions making you feel like?
I think when it comes to the emotions of what was happening, I think in general, like when they closed my bank, when they closed Signature, like that was kind of crazy because I don't know what to do at this point other than maybe just be unbanked. But I do think that people shouldn't be too scared, right? Because so many times you see this horrible, horrible news and everything's going to collapse. And you know what happens? That happens. And then you're still fine. So I think inserting yourself too much in this story could be dangerous to somebody's mental health, I think. And then I think that in terms of what was the first part of the question?
Well, what were your thoughts, as a business owner? Did you think about, trading into a loss? I mean, did you think about just putting in Bitcoin and say, hey, you're getting paid in Satoshis?
Well, it's more complicated than that because it's like, how do we do the benefits? Like we have health insurance here for our employees. And it's like, I've already been thinking about that as well. As a business, where we're at right now, you kind of got to play along with the game. I don't think you have a lot of choices because if you unplug from the system, what you're telling potential new employees is that, to get money here, you're gonna have to go through a lot more than you would have to at another place. It's not just sign up and get a check. We're always like trying to negotiate like, hey, this week can't pay you in crypto. I actually did that early on and it doesn't work. People don't like it. They'd rather have the consistency of the money. So I think that it is a good time for companies and businesses to really think about, I don't know, maybe creating their own organization or something like that that can help them regulate things and make people feel safe.
I know if Jesse Powell and that Kraken Bank ever launch, I'm just going to YOLO in just out of, solidarity for the space there. Now, Wendy O, some things went down, some things went up. I'm looking at Tether right here. Huge, huge spike. You see that nice little volume there, nice little pump up to $1.03 there. So huge, nice, just out of nowhere. Obviously, people panic selling, panic trading their USDC for USDT. What do you think this does to the odds for the long-term health for CBDCs as far as USDC is concerned? Because they drop, but then they're able to shake it off. On one point they can say, "Guys, we are stable." This happened while banking hours were closed. Do you think this helps the odds that maybe USDC is going to be the CBDC of choice, or is this done in the water? In fact, we should go with Tether. It went the other direction.
They'll never go with Tether any way, shape, or form. I think if they do integrate a CBDC or an existing cryptocurrency as a CBDC, they will go with USDC. It makes sense. BlackRock has backed them. Also, an interesting idea. So we say that the US dollar is supposedly like pegged like 1-to-1, like it's never supposed to fluctuate in value. But what about inflation? Because when we get high levels of inflation, $1 US no longer equals $1 US.
Yeah, that's why I'm waiting for these other currencies to open up. I'm waiting to get some Swiss francs stablecoin. I'm gonna ask to get paid in it. I don't know if Tim will do it.
Or the ruble. That would work out well.
All right, yeah. I think so too. Hey, my Cardano stablecoin Zed, it was like $1.05 at one point. Well, Forrest, I know this might sound dumb, but a lot of people they really do wonder this. Do we even need stablecoins? A lot of people say, Why can't we just use Bitcoin? Why can't we just use Ethereum? Why can't we even use XRP, some would say, as some sort of base level for the monetary system? How far away are we from that? Or do you think that maybe that'll even never happen?
Genuinely, this is a really unpopular opinion during in the crypto space. I don't think it'll ever happen, or at least not in our lifetimes, not for many, many years. Look, the US dollar is the global reserve currency, and they have the United States military at their disposal to defend that reserve currency circumstance. The pattern that usually happens, and I believe we're in an inflationary spiral, and the US dollar is going to see high inflation, and you see government debt expenditures have skyrocketed. I think we're in for a world of hurt, and most people's quality of lives are probably going to dramatically drop in the next 5 to 10 years. It's not going to be pretty. But what oftentimes happens is you have this pattern of the United States military serving some good old-fashioned justice to a country that may or may not have resources that we like or want. Look, I'm as pro-America as anybody. I'm as pro-US as anybody, but I'm also pretty anti-establishment, and just willing to call a spade a spade. I just don't think the United States establishment is going to give up the US dollar for Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency for that matter for a very long time. Now, that's not to say that people cannot opt to use Bitcoin as a store of value or use Ethereum or crypto as a store of value and try to get off grid. But for the vast majority of how it works, I think we're going to move into a CBDC dominated world. I just don't see mainstream, U.S. government adoption of Bitcoin and crypto and that taking over the world monetary system anytime soon.
I see you in the chat. We don't even need a dollar. I always say the US dollar does have one utility. If you live in the country, you have to pay your taxes in this unit, but if you don't pay, they will violently lock you in a cage against your will. So it's the keep me out of the cage coin is what I like to call it. Well, thinking crypto, what do you think the government is now thinking about USDC? There's a lot of rumors that, hey, this is going to be the go-to CBDC. They got the green light. They have all the insiders. They're all talking on the inside. Do you think that they hate Circle now? Do they like Circle now? Is this part of the plan? Maybe this was unexpected? What do you think the Fed's relationship with Circle is now after the past 72 hours?
A couple of years ago, I interviewed Jeremy Allaire, CEO of Circle, and I asked him these questions. Boy, he got nervous, and he didn't want to answer in full. And I can tell, I could read his body language. I think Circle is certainly working with the government. There is a high potential that USDC could become that CBDC, the digital dollar. Circle is a regulated entity, and as I think Wendy mentioned, BlackRock and some of the big players are behind USDC now. So high probability of that happening, given that it's in the US, it's regulated, it's on different blockchains, and while this banking situation puts them in a bit of a tough spot. Not all of their reserves was with the bank. It was just about 3.3 billion, while they have $40 billion in reserves. So, if I was to place a bet today, I would put it on USDC being the digital dollar.
All right. Well, bold words there. And I know Circle CEO is watching. Hey, why'd you call me out on the sweaty forehead? Go back and make sure you check out that interview. All of these channels are putting out fantastic content. I highly recommend you go check it out. But it looks like we are out of time, and Forrest ended up taking it home. I'm pretty sure it's the one-of-one Utes that gave him the energy. I know Ben certainly thinks so. He's shaking his head. Wendy's championing it anyways. Thinking crypto, always a good time. With the $1 million smile there. One would say a Bitcoin smile. But Forrest, feel free, take it away, and let us know. I see Ben seething over there. You might have to give him a comment as well.
Yeah, I love the Under Armour. A lot of cool people rep Under Armour. You got The Rock, you got Jordan Spieth to come to mind. Listen, a lot of volatility in the markets right now. Research and diversification are your friends. Diversification has been a horrible strategy up until recently, right? Diversification. You've wanted to be in risky, crypto, tech stocks, and real estate for the last 10 years. In this quantitative easing bull market. Now it's time, in my opinion, where we're going to have a lot of uncertainty. Diversification is your friend. Research is also your friend. tuning into streams like these so that you can pay attention and be educated on what's happening so that you can make the moves that you need to make based on having additional knowledge about what's actually going on in the world. Don't be blissfully ignorant. Just pay attention and you'll be fine.
Diversify your cryptocurrencies, diversify your stablecoins, and even diversify your bank accounts, it looks like. That's all we got today, Bit Squad. Easy out.